let's check out those brackets for a What Happened on My Universe Mod PPV Special! It's part 1 of the King of the Ring, and we're in New Orleans, Louisiana for the King of the Ring tournament, starting with a first round match between Mustafa and Ricky Steamboat. While these two have their even beginning, I'll just quickly explain why it's 2 parts. For some reason, Universe Mode likes to keep the King of the Ring tournament, the entire King of the Ring tournament, as one match on the pay-per-view. So, we've still got 6 other matches on top of the entire tournament. That's why. So, part 1 is the King of the Ring tournament, part 2, the rest of the card. So let's get on with this part 1. Okay, so it's not even anymore. Ricky Steamboat has the advantage, and he was tossing Kama about like a little ragdoll, but then Kama worked out that he was much bigger than Ricky Steamboat, and reversed the roles and started throwing him around like a ragdoll and kicking him in the face. Ricky had enough of that, reversed it, and hit a nice suplex there before punching him in the face. He went to the top rope after this suplex, but it didn't end well, and Kama knocked him down, throwing him to the floor from the top rope and almost beating him. But luckily we had that resiliency button there, otherwise we'd have been fucked. Ricky reversed a suplex and then hit a few more moves before jumping on him with what was kind of like a double X handle but also a splash. Before Kama could wake up, he hit a small cradle, and that was that. Ricky Steamboat was into the semi-finals. Straight on to our next first round match, and it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, taking on the Italian stallion Santino Marella in an international clash. The match began with Santino surprisingly taking control after reversing the initial Dusty flurry. He hit a splash and then went for a kick before Dusty dodged and kicked back, then hit Santino with repeated elbows, forearms, and stuff like that. The Milan Miracle was not done though, and he managed to get a reversal in before hitting a jackhammer of all things. He hit a fist drop, and then the most long way of getting into a bulldog ever, which must have pissed Dusty off just doing that bulldog, because Dusty went mental on him after that, started punching him, hitting the spinny double hand thingy that he does, and then the spinning uppercut. After that, elbow, pile driver, and then a bionic elbow to finish the match and win it for Dusty, putting him into the semi-finals. So that's one semi-final match already decided, Ricky Steamboat versus Dusty Rhodes. Now for a WrestleMania 9 rematch as Mr. Perfect takes on Lex Luger. In this one, Mr. Perfect had the advantage in the early going before Lex Luger, well, clotheslined him and threw him out the ring. On the outside, Lex Luger beat him a few times, threw him down and punched him in the face before Perfect reversed one of those punches and kicked him in the gut, hitting a suplex before jumping off the apron to hit a double axe handle. It was all going so well for Mr. Perfect until they went back in the ring and Lex Luger clotheslined him again. He needs to start dodging that. Luger worked on Perfect with various moves and elbows before Mr. Perfect once again managed to get a reversal. And this time, he started beating him a bit and hitting a nice neck breaker to keep Luger down. After a couple more moves, Luger dodged a dropkick off the top rope, but then immediately got dodged by Perfect and then suplexed in a nice little sequence. The match ended with the pair trading big moves, Perfect hitting his running knee before Lex Luger hitting his finishing pile driver, but Perfect kicked out at 2. Immediately then, Perfect hit the Perfect Plex, and Luger didn't kick out on 2 of this one. Mr. Perfect on his way to the semi-finals. And he'll be facing the winner of the next match, Jake Roberts versus Sgt Slaughter. But Jake the Snake didn't have this in mind when he entered the competition, Sgt Slaughter attacking him during his entrance. Sarge left Jake laying on the outside after a side suplex, and when Jake finally came to and ran into the ring, Sgt Slaughter got him again before hitting a massive pile driver. Jake thought he'd got the advantage back when he threw Slaughter into the corner on a reversal, but Slaughter dodged, and then it was another backbreaker. Slaughter kept the advantage for a while, kicking him in the back, but Jake grabbed his head and got him into a sleeper, and Roberts tried to get back some of that advantage. Slaughter thought he was back into it, elbowing Jake to get out of it, but nope. and he rang his arm, then rang his leg, and then a backbreaker. But then Slaughter got control again, took out Jake's arm, and then went for a suplex, but Jake reversed the suplex and went for a slam, but then Sgt Slaughter reversed the slam and it was a reverse DDT, and that was possibly the end for Jake the Snake. Sgt Slaughter slammed down a few more moves before locking in the camel clutch, but Jake wouldn't tap. He just held it, took the pain. So Sgt Slaughter elbowed Jake Roberts in the back 2 more times and then locked in another submission hold, working on that back. And Jake Roberts couldn't take it anymore and tapped out. So Sgt Slaughter were facing Mr. Perfect in the semi-finals. But before we get to that semi-final, we've got to sit through the other semi-final. Not that it's going to be a chore, because it's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. So, who would be taking control in this clash of the titans? It would be Dusty taking the initial control, hitting suplexes and a few elbows before Ricky Steamboat got his moves in, arm ringing, and then a back suplex followed by another suplex and a neck breaker. But then, Dusty's turn again, and he fireman carried reversaled, which was kinda cool. Threw Ricky Steamboat to the corner and then clotheslined him massively before slamming him down. And then Ricky took his turn again and hit some kung fu. His spell in control didn't last too long, however, and after a chop and a fireman's carry, he went for a rest hold, but Dusty wasn't ready to rest, and he slapped him in the belly. Rhodes thought he had a chance here, hitting his running elbow drop before slamming down a Russian leg sweep and going for the pin. Luckily for the Dragon, he had his wits about him and he got his hand on the rope before he could get to 3, shocking Dusty in the process. Dusty smacked him one, but when he went for another, Ricky Steamboat reversed and hit his signature maneuver before whacking an elbow drop and going to the top rope. But Dusty caught him. Unfortunately for Ricky Steamboat, that was that. He took a page out of Big Show's playbook with a final cut before hitting the bionic elbow and then a jumping bionic elbow, busting him open in the process and winning the match to take his place in the final. And it was time to decide who he was against in the final, as Mr. Perfect took on Sgt Slaughter in our second semi-final. The match began with Mr. Perfect giving us a masterclass, hitting a backbreaker, a Russian leg sweep before locking in an Indian deathlock to give us a submission start. Slaughter managed to wriggle out, and when Mr. Perfect went for another move, Sarge reversed, and then put his head to the mat with a pile driver. After a chop block, it seemed to infuriate Mr. Perfect, and he went on the rampage once again, hitting his own pile driver in the process. Following that, Perfect went for a suplex, but Slaughter reversed, who then went for a kick, but Perfect reversed and hit him with a dragon screw. But eventually Slaughter did get the advantage back. And with that advantage, he dragged Mr. Perfect outside, launching him into the barricade before hitting a massive suplex on the mats. Back in the ring though, Perfect was back on the attack, and hit a perfect plex, which Slaughter kicked out of. To avoid getting pounded by a pissed off Perfect, Sgt Slaughter headed to the outside, and Perfect was pissed off, as he headed to the outside too and started destroying things, but while he was doing that and distracting the ref, Slaughter snuck a chair in and wedged it in the corner. Perfect hit a move, but when he went for the pin, the ref was too distracted moving the chair away, giving Slaughter a chance to kick out. Then, Slaughter reversed, hit a fireman's carry, hit a suplex, a big one at that, then hit another suplex, a pile driver, which surely would have been enough, but just to be safe he hit a full forward suplex as well, and went for the pin, and Perfect was out. Sgt Slaughter was in the final. And Slaughter might as well have stayed there, because it was time for the King of the Ring final. The winner would be the King of the Ring, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes against the leader of the militia, Sgt Slaughter. The final promised to be a slobber knocker, and it was. Dusty opening the match with elbows before locking in a sleeper hold. Slaughter got out of it, and then it was time for another one of his massive suplexes. He then locked on a submission of his own, wrenching the arm, but Dusty got out eventually, punching him in the gut. He then hit a back body drop. After that, though, he couldn't keep Slaughter down, and the Sarge dodged a kick before hitting an atomic drop. He then took full control, back suplex, a slam with a hand behind his back for some reason. Dusty Rhodes had the same tactic, dodging a stomp and then hitting him with some high-impact strikes to the head. There isn't much more high impact to the head than a pile driver, and that's what Dusty Rhodes hit next, keeping Slaughter down. Then it was an inverted atomic drop. But then Slaughter reversed into the corner and kneeing him hard in the gut. Slaughter hit a few high impact shots to the head of his own. But then, in a similar situation, Dusty reversed in the corner as well. And then more shots to the head. This one involved a bionic elbow, Dusty's finisher. But Slaughter kicked out at 2, shocking Dusty. But Dusty didn't have time to be shocked as he got clotheslined in the head. Slaughter headed to the outside and started dismantling the table, possibly more of his shenanigans like in the first 2 matches. Well, whatever Slaughter had planned, it went to shit because Dusty was ready for it, slamming Slaughter's head into the announce table a few times before getting back into the ring, hanging him on the second rope, and butt bumping him. In a shocking twist though, Slaughter then quickly turned him round and hit the Cobra Clutch, his finisher. Dusty didn't tap, but Slaughter went for the pin. Dusty luckily kicked out at 2 though. And then Dusty was back on the attack, hitting his signature punches. But then Slaughter quickly reversed again and locked in the abdominal stretch. Dusty didn't tap again, reversed, and then headed to the top rope, launched Slaughter off the top rope, hit the jumping bionic elbow, and that was that. Dusty Rhodes was king of the ring. And they don't seem to have the cutscene where he sits on the throne anymore, so you'll have to make do with him dancing. Don't worry, next time he's on the show, you'll know he's the king of the ring. Find out what happens on the rest of the card on What Happens on My Universe Mode next time in part 2. Like and subscribe.